In this video, I'm going to show you how to do a full glitter Northern Lights tumbler. This is using our 4S series and our super ultra fine high iridescent micas. So you're going to start with our super ultra fine high iridescent micas. We're going to be using blue, green, red, and purple. We're going to be using the tack it method, and for our glitter base, we're going to be using Loretta. You're going to need any of the high iridescent micas that you want to use, but I chose those four. You're going to need tack it. This is made by Eileen's. You can get it at any craft store. I use a 75-25% ratio, meaning I use about 75% is going to be my glue, 25% is going to be my water. You can use a 50-50 ratio as well. It just makes it thinner, and to me, you have to get it on the cup a lot thinner and a lot cleaner for the coverage to be as good. So I always do the 25% water and the 75% glue. I put mine in a resealable container because you're going to be using it multiple times on this tumbler. We're going to use it for the base, then we're going to go back and use it for our trees. So when you're mixing your tack it, make sure you mix it completely. You don't want any clumps, any thickness. You're going to mix it to a honey-like consistency. Make sure you're scraping the sides and the bottom of your container and your popsicle stick off so that you can eliminate any of those clumpy areas or sticky areas that the glue is going to have. You don't want that on your cup because it will make it harder for you to get your glitter to be even and flat. Once that's all mixed up, you're going to take a soft bristle brush. This one's just from the dollar store. It works perfectly fine. You can use a Mod Podge brush. A lot of people like to use that. So I've spray painted and prepped my tumbler, sanded the tumbler, spray painted it, and it's ready to go. You're going to start just applying your glue water mixture. It doesn't matter rhyme or reason, just get it on there. I do like to go in one direction for the final brush strokes. You see how those are very thick glue lines? You don't want that in your final coating. That will show up when you start to do your tack it method. So you're just going to try to go around the cup as often and as many times as you need to get that all streaked down and kind of leveled out and smoothed out. Make sure you get your bottom really well. Those little circles, make sure you get inside those indentions because the glitter will either not stick or it will pull. So you just want to get that all smoothed out, and the softer the brush you use, the easier that is going to be. Once you get it completely covered, you're going to see that it does have kind of a white tone to it. You do want that because that is showing you your coverage. That, don't worry, that will dry clear. I'm going to show you that in just a minute. I will show you a comparison so that you know what you're looking for to see how long you need to wait before you start applying your 4S series. Our 4S series has multiple colors. There is over 20 of those, so we have plenty of different options for you to be able to choose from, ranging from bright and colorful to these dark grays, dark blacks, that kind of thing. If you don't know what a 4S is, or the tack it, that is going to throw a linear rainbow when you get done. It's going to go on like glitter, but once you get it all rubbed in and ready to go, it's going to be a very soft finish to your cup. So just continue to turn your tumbler and rub that glue in really, really well until you get it completely good and covered. You notice I do go over the bottom a couple of times, and I do go over the tumbler a couple of times just to make sure you don't want any streaks. You don't want any areas where that glue has not adhered to your tumbler. because the glitter will show that. The 4S, once you get it rubbed in, anything underneath this glue is going to show or not show. So if you have any lumps in your paint, that kind of thing, it's going to show. If you're doing this over epoxy, if you've already epoxied a layer and then you're doing your tack it method, make sure you sand your cup down really, really well. You don't want any air bubble spaces or any kind of indentions or anything in the epoxy that is going to make it harder for that for us to adhere. So again, you see how smooth and how kind of even that has been. Now, once that dries, you see that the glue has come completely clear. So it's really easy to see on a black base. If you're on a white base, it's a little bit harder to see. But once it has dried to that black, you're ready to go, or to the clear, whatever your cup color is. So we're going to be using Loretta. This is going to go on to our base coat. You can use any black that you like. This is a little bit lighter. It's just a really super dark gray, but I use this for the sky part. But you can use a solid black. You do want to use a black or a really dark gray for these iridescent micas because that's where they're going to show up best. So with the 4S, always put your paper down because you're going to be using quite a bit and you don't want to make too big of a mess. So put your paper down, start sprinkling your glitter on. As you see, it is going on like a typical glitter. It's just kind of adhering to all of the tacket. And if you look at it from here, it just looks like you're sprinkling on a really, really dark gray glitter. Now, with the tacket method, when you're applying it on top of your glue base, you can reuse that glitter. All that glitter that's fallen onto the paper. Just tap your cup, hit your hand. You can tap the base that the cup is on. Don't touch the actual cup to anything. But you can reuse this glitter. So what I do is I just raise up my paper, put it back in my jar, and I start all over until I get this cup completely covered in our glitters. Once you are done with this part and you do the rub down and the burnishing, you do not reuse that glitter. I always throw that glitter away, or you can put it into another container if you want. Make you a second container for your glitters and use that, mark it, because you could get stuff from the glue, residue from the glue off in that glitter, and you do not want that. You don't want to have to reuse that for tacket method if you've got little particles of the glue from a previous project in your glitter. So all of this glitter, as long as you haven't burnished it yet, all of that is fine to put back in your cup, in your container, and you can reuse that. But once you've burnished it, you're not going to reuse that glitter. You can use it for craft projects or, something else, but you do not want to use it for tacket because if it has any residue in it, it's not going to tack down the way it's supposed to. Make sure you're getting your bottom really well. I always put glitter on the bottom, and then you can take and tap the bottom onto your pile of glitter on the paper, but make sure you have glitter on it first. You don't want it to touch that paper by some chance when you're tapping it and the glue come off. Okay, so here we're going to start burnishing our 4S into the glue mixture. You're going to really rub that down. A lot of mistakes are made because people are, kind of intimidated on pressing hard, but you have to put pressure down in order to get that glitter to go down into and burnish into that glue mixture. You can see the difference. See, the linear rainbow has already started trying to form. You'll know that it's done when it's a really soft finish. It's going to be a really smooth cup. You're not going to be able to feel the glitter anymore. There will be no bumps, no rough spaces. Make sure you get the edges really well. If you don't get the edges, you will still have kind of glitter specks, and you don't want that. So really, really burnish that in. Make sure on the bottom, the little rings, you're going to burnish it in. And then I always go back in with the tip of my finger and get just right in the corners of those circles to make sure that all of that is pressed into the cup. And you'll see how beautiful the linear rainbow becomes. As you spin your cup, you'll see that throw, that rainbow throw. And that's what the 4S or really any super ultra fine holographic will do this. It just depends on which holographic you use, whether or not you have a solid color rainbow throw or linear throw, or if you have a rainbow multicolored throw. So now it's on the spinner. You're going to add your epoxy. This is a 30-ounce tumbler, and I am adding 30 ounces of epoxy. I use Stone Coat countertop epoxy. It's the only epoxy I use. It does a very glass-like finish. It's very sturdy. It's my favorite. I've tried several, and this one is easy to work with. So this is the one that I have always used. But you're going to cover your cup as completely as possible. Get it really good and thick on there. You want it to be a little bit thicker coat than you typically would, because you want these micas to move once you get it on there. But you don't want it so overly thick that it's dripping. If it's dripping off your cup and just kind of falling off, that's too much. But 30 ounces seems to be a pretty good amount for the 30-ounce tumbler. Make sure you're getting the bottom of your tumbler really good. Go over the curve of the base really well. Make sure you're getting the top good. I always try to finish up by going in one direction. This really doesn't matter because this is your base coat. You will be adding more epoxy after we do the tree line and stuff anyways, but make sure that the tumbler is coated really, really well. I'm hitting it here with a heat gun. Just continue to let your turner spin. Take your heat gun. Don't get super close, but get down there pretty close to the cup. Don't stay in one spot too long. It will and can burn your epoxy. You do not want that. You just want to kind of pop those air bubbles and get the epoxy warmed up enough to where it's going to move around when you go to swipe up your coloring. Now we're going to move on to the next step, and it's adding these iridescent micas. You can use any color you want. If you don't want to use iridescents, you can use any bright colors, just something that's going to show up on that dark color base. These, there's really no rhyme or reason. I throw them on, multiple colors. I start out with one color and just kind of drop it on here and there. Just always think you're going to be swiping it upwards. Now you can do these more in a line. This cup was specifically ordered as this. They wanted, you know, just kind of the colors going straight up in the air. So you can do a little bit longer strokes of that if you want to kind of make that coloring a little bit wider on the cup. But this is a skinny tumbler, and so this one's going to look really good with it just kind of splattered the way that it is right now. So this one is the red, I believe. It does show up kind of a pinkish color on the black. So keep that in mind if you order the red. It is lighter. But then we're going to move on to the next color. And we're just going to plop that in here and there, in between it, kind of around it. Like I said, you're just going to add it all over. Even though we're putting the tree line at the bottom, you do want to bring those colors to the bottom, because if you use tree lines that have gaps, that coloring, you want that to come through. So you're just going to try to put that kind of around everywhere. And we're going to go to the third color. So we've got our red and our green on. I believe I did purple next. Yes, that's purple. So you just kind of fill in your gaps. And if you don't want as many colors as this cup, you don't have to add that many. She wanted hers completely colorful, so that's what we did. All right, we're going to come in and finish up with our blues. There is a gold and a white in these iridescent micas. Now I do have regular iridescent micas, but these are very, very fluffy. They will fly when you open the jar. They are super, super ultra fine. They leave a very sleek finish when you use them. They're just really, really amazing micas. If you don't have them, you definitely want the entire set. So you're going to take your makeup brush and just swipe up from the bottom. Let your cup spin and just continue. You want to wipe that brush off. You could do every stroke, or I just do every couple of strokes, or every few strokes. Just wipe it up. You'll know if your brush kind of starts sticking that you want to change it. So wipe it off, clean it off. So you just swipe it until you think you've got it the way that you want it. If you see how all the colors are kind of combining and mixing together and just kind of looks like the Northern Lights dancing around, that's what you're looking for. That's the effect that you're going for. I did do this immediately after applying my epoxy and my micas. If you want to wait, this will shift just a little as it's spinning. So if you want to wait a few minutes, you can, but it already takes a few minutes to put your micas on and that kind of thing. So I just go right into moving them. Now, if you wanted to do wider, longer strokes, of course, just make your mica drops wide instead of just little bitty dots. And you can go per color if you want to do that, per pile of mica. And you could make them a wider stroke. Let it spin for a couple of minutes, and then make sure you go in and get your bases. Make sure they all have a little color at the bottom and that your color is going all the way to the top. we are going to use a holographic multicolor rainbow vinyl on this. So I've gone in and I've cut her name out. You do not mirror. On the tree line, we reverse weed, and then you apply that to your cup. And then we are going to use another Super Ultrafine 4S series to make our tree line in glitter. So once you have your reverse weed on there, you're going to spray paint that black. Not the entire cup, just the bottom. Then you're going to go back and you're going to do your tack it method one more time. So we've done the tack it method down on the bottom where the tree line is. And now we are burnishing that tree line, only the tree line. I will link all of the glitters that we used onto the bottom in the description of this video so that you can just click the link to be able to order. But you see, we're also using, since we're using a 4S, it also gives that linear rainbow for the tree line. Then once you are done, once it's dry, you're going to peel the vinyl back off, and that is going to leave that tree line. That's why you reverse weed. If you don't know what reverse weed is, it's weeding out the vinyl around the image instead of the trees. Once you epoxy, you get a super sleek finish. This is on its final spin.